At least 7 dead in Lviv. Authorities say 3 children are among those killed in a Russian attack.
France's interior minister blames smugglers after a boat carrying dozens of migrants capsized, killing at least 12 people.
Nearly 200 middle schools in France started experimenting this week with a ban on phones. The Kashkesh City Council will provide affordable housing for teachers who live far from where they teach.
Syrian refugees are being prevented from reaching Europe, then deported back to danger in Syria. And the European Union is complicit. These are the conclusions of a new report. Human Rights Watch spoke to 16 Syrian refugees who had tried to cross to Cyprus irregularly from Lebanon, which hosts 1.5 million displaced Syrians and where hostility towards refugees is on the rise. 11 had been expelled by the Lebanese authorities back to Syria, 4 of them after having been pushed back to Lebanon from Cyprus.
Without legal and safe pathways to Europe, they attempt this really dangerous journey, trying to cross the sea to reach a better life in Europe. What we found instead is that the Lebanese armed forces and for their part, the Cypriot Coast Guard prevented them from their continuing their journey. They were also beaten, shoved, handcuffed at times, arbitrarily detained, and really subjected to inhuman treatment before they were, probably the most devastating part of the story, forced to return to Syria, where we know and have documented, as many other organizations have, the way in which refugees, returnees are arbitrarily detained, disappeared, and sometimes killed on return to Syria.
The European Union is funding several migration control projects in Lebanon. In May, Commission President Ursula von der Leyen announced a further €1 billion in financial support, including money to equip and train the Lebanese authorities to better manage the borders. Human Rights Watch says EU money is propping up those responsible for human rights violations.
There really doesn't seem to be any kind of conditionality or consequence for funding these agencies. In fact, what we've seen with the EU-Lebanon deal, it's almost a reward. Here is another pledge to provide outrageous sums of money without, any kind of conditionality attached to them.
The Cypriot government has indicated it wants to secure the new role of European Commissioner for the Mediterranean, which would involve overseeing the EU's migration deals with countries in its southern neighbourhood. Human Rights Watch says the choice would be irresponsible, given Cypriot authorities' documented pushbacks against refugees.
The Romanian MEP Roxana Minzatu is her country's designated commissioner after her government changed candidate and put forward a woman. The move is in support of Commissioner President Ursula von der Leyen's right for gender equality. She asked each country to send a man and a woman for her to choose from. Romania is seeking an economic portfolio, and Bucharest believes the former Minister for EU Funds and Secretary of State for Procurement is the right fit in terms of competence.
We're looking at the competitiveness of the European Union and all the tasks and objectives that lie ahead, because we're obviously in a moment where in the global competition Europe needs to do something, needs to reindustrialize. President von der Leyen has taken on some ambitious goals into this direction with the reindustrialization, the clean, green reindustrialization of Europe.
Only around a third of EU countries have sent women, including Spain, Belgium and Bulgaria. The majority of others have, for their own domestic reasons, defied the request by Ursula von der Leyen to promote gender balance. Von der Leyen's last cabinet was nearly 50-50 men to women. Minzatu believes the imbalance is in line with the rise of far-right nationalism across Europe.
On different dimensions, the numbers are poorer than they used to be, which goes to show that you think you have progress and it can be reversed. It is probably also a photograph of the atmosphere and of the spirits of societies in which, as I've said, politicians are not making enough effort to put this on the agenda. I've often explained that the lack of women in public authority positions is directly related, in my opinion, with gender-based violence, because it's a mentality, it's a bias that exists, that women are vulnerable, that they are victims, and this is enhanced by the fact that authority positions are male almost all the time.
Ursula von der Leyen is due to announce her nominations for commissioners on September the 11th. After that, each designated commissioner will be scrutinised for their suitability by MEPs at the European Parliament later in the month.
At least 7 people were killed in a Russian missile strike on Lviv on Wednesday. 3 children and a medical worker were among those killed, and 35 others were injured, according to the western Ukrainian city's mayor, Andriy Sadovyi. He said multiple houses, 2 medical institutions, and 2 schools were damaged. Russia has also attacked several other Ukrainian cities this week, including Kyiv, Kharkiv, Dnipro, and Zaporizhia. Wednesday's attack comes a day after Russia launched ballistic missiles at a military academy and nearby hospital in Poltava, killing over 50. The strike was the deadliest single attack this year. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has ordered an investigation and reiterated Kyiv's demands for help from its allies.
The head of the United Nations nuclear watchdog met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and reassures they will increase nuclear safety assistance to Ukraine. He says they will expand their inspections to include the electricity substations that provide power to Ukraine's power plants.
Some of the, not stations, but some of the power lines had been affected. And we indicated already at that time that this was a risk for the plant. The IAEA could or should be looking also at the substations.
It comes after Russian shelling allegedly damaged power lines leading to the Zaporizhzhia plant. That is according to the plant's power producer Energoatom. Grossi is now set to visit the Zaporizhzhia plant. It falls shortly after he visited the Kursk plant in Russia last week.
The French government blames smugglers after a boat capsized in the English Channel, killing at least 12. The comments from the French Interior Minister came after a boat carrying more than 50 migrants capsized off France's northern coast, with a pregnant woman and 6 minors reportedly amongst the dead. Following the incident, he highlighted the importance of re-establishing a better relationship with the UK.
Les passeurs, souvent d'origine étrangère, touchent beaucoup d'argent pour pouvoir faire passer des personnes justement en Grande-Bretagne et sont les responsables, sont des criminels.
Local authorities said the boat got into difficulty off the coast and everyone aboard ended up in the water. Boats and aircraft were scrambled for the rescue operation. The boat was believed to have been heading to the UK in yet another perilous journey across the Channel, which is a busy and often treacherous waterway.
Ce matin, on vous a demandé de laisser nos téléphones dans une boîte.
In this middle school in the southern suburbs of Paris, the students started out their morning by giving their phones away. Nearly 200 middle schools in France started experimenting with the so-called digital break this week, a total ban on cell phones in the classroom. The goal, to limit screen time and fight cyberbullying, an initiative that pleases both school staff and even students alike.
Ça leur habitue vraiment à pendant toute une journée, être sans leur téléphone et pouvoir vivre autrement, même dans les temps de récréation où ils font autre chose que d'être sur leur téléphone.
On s'amuse, du coup il n'y a pas de téléphone, ça sert à rien. Moi je trouve que c'est une très bonne idée parce que ça peut nous perturber pendant les cours et c'est mieux de ne pas avoir son téléphone pendant les cours.
Phones are stored all day in 5 briefcases like this one for a total cost of €300, which the school paid out of pocket, a financial burden deemed too important by some of the departments that fund middle schools in the country. But France's education minister disagrees.
Les coûts financiers me semblent assez modestes. Vous avez pu voir que les dispositifs qui ont été choisis dans cet établissement consistent en l'acquisition de mallettes portables qui coûtent 60 € l'unité et qui ont d'ailleurs été financées sur fonds propres. Mais bien sûr, je ne veux qu'aucun malentendu s'installe avec l'Association des départements de France.
If this experimentation goes well, the ban will be extended to every school in January 2025.
Qashqai's City Council is offering affordable housing for teachers who teach in the municipality but have to travel from far away.
Temos 105 habitações disponíveis para este ano letivo. Hoje estamos a inaugurar já estas 4 moradias que vão dar resposta já aos primeiros 16.
Teachers who live more than 60 kilometers away from where they teach will be eligible for the housing. The monthly rent ranges from 150 to 400 euros, depending on the type of accommodation. Since 2017, rent in Portugal has more than doubled.
O nosso objetivo é captar talento e captar os melhores professores que venham lecionar para o Concello de Cascais e que o fator da habitação não seja um entrave a captar esse talento.
The council says they will also provide temporary housing for those who are filling in for just a few months. For example, for teachers replacing individuals who are on sick or maternity leave.